Next, using the work of others. It is where it allows auditor to use the work of others to obtain the audit evidence. Others here can be referred as other auditor, internal auditor and expert. Let's look into detail about using the work of other auditor. It applies in the ISA 600 that a principal auditor would decide on how the work of other auditor would affect the audit. The professional competence of other auditor will be taken into consideration if the other auditor is not a chartered accountant. Principal auditor also responsible to inform the other auditor about crucial matters such as areas requiring special consideration, procedure for identification of intercomponent transaction and the significant accounting, auditing and reporting requirements. Besides that, principal auditor should also consider significant findings of other auditor. It means that there should be a proper coordination and communication between the two auditors to ensure a quality work result. It is also required that all material areas in audited financial statements of the subsidiaries need to be confirmed by principal auditor as acceptable. However, any work entrusted to the other auditor will not be the responsible of principal auditor. Detailed review regarding the work of other auditor focusing on the existence of audit work documentation, audit programs adequacy, scope of work covered, appropriate control test and substantive procedure, adequacy of audit evidence obtained and reviewing work of engagement team. If principal auditor is not satisfied with the review of the other auditors, they can request other auditor to perform the supplementary test or they can perform the test themselves. Now, let's understand what is using the work of internal auditor. Stated in ISA 610, our internal auditing is an assessment formed within an entity as a service to other entity. The purpose is basically to examine, evaluate and monitor the effectiveness of accounting and internal control system. Other than that, external auditors shall determine the adequacy of work performed by internal auditor before using their work. It is also some sort of a shortcut for external auditor in performing audit procedure for expressing opinion. Internal auditor can help them focus by advising on important issues. Basically, external auditors should understand the overall work to determine whether they can rely on it. Besides that, the objective, scope and function of internal auditor's work should be in more or less the same with external auditor to influence the judgment about nature, timing and extent of external audit procedure. Thus, external auditor would evaluate internal auditor work in terms of following to accept it such as technical competence, professional due care, scope of work, documentation on planning, and sample size selected by internal auditor. Lastly, let's look into using the work of expert. Under ISA 620, it is defined that expert is a person who have knowledge, special skills and experience in particular field other than accounting and auditing where it helps to gather audit evidence. An expert may be engaged by entity, engaged by auditor, employed by entity or employed by auditor. If the work of an expert is to be used, auditors shall consider the materiality of item being considered, risk of misstatement based on nature and complexity of matter considered and the other available audit evidence quantity and quality. An auditor shall agree the matters with audit expert such as nature, scope and objective of expert work, roles and responsibilities of auditors and expert, the nature, timing and extent of communication involved, and also the need for auditor's expert to observe confidentiality requirement. If the expert does not provide the sufficient audit evidence, auditors still have to resolve the matter through discussion with management and expert and applying additional procedures. And if it's still unresolved, auditor may modify the audit report using an unqualified opinion with emphasis of matter or issue qualified report. That's all for this topic. Thank you for watching.